Alright, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now, I've been out of town since Thursday. I just got back. I am exhausted. I need to put out a video for you guys today, and then tomorrow I will be playing a lot of catch-up. So bear with me. I apologize for the inactivity, but it is what it is. I want to talk about the Israel Adesanya situation and the whole DUI thing, okay? Because this is a crazy story, a huge story, and honestly, there's a few points that I think a lot of people haven't really touched on. I know I'm a few days late, but still, I think I will give somewhat of a unique perspective. So let's get right into it, dude. Israel Adesanya pleads guilty to a DUI that took place on August 19th, which is just 3 weeks before the Sean Strickland fight. Now, what I want to point out is that the UFC's PR team did a very good job at keeping the story under wraps, because we just heard about this recently when Israel Adesanya pled guilty to this crime. We didn't hear about it on August 19th or August 20th or anything like that, which is insane because usually when a celebrity does something like this, it's all over everywhere. However, the UFC had an event they needed Israel Adesanya to attend, as he was in the main event, and they couldn't have the story go public. So it was essentially buried until just now, which honestly, if you think about it, is kind of fortuitous for the UFC, because they've been putting out this BS excuse that Israel Adesanya looked off. He didn't look himself. He looked slow. And they're going to use this story to validate that excuse, which is actually one of the main points that I want to touch on. First, I want to go over the facts. Before I do that, actually, don't drink and drive. Bad behavior. Horrible thing to do. I've had, before the age of 18, 2 of my friends killed themselves doing that. Thankfully, they didn't kill anybody else, but they could have. Do you know what I mean? It's not worth it. Just don't do it, okay? Point blank, period. Virtue signal over. Let's go over the facts of the case, and then I want to talk about some of the excuses that people are making for Israel Adesanya, or at the very least using it to validate excuses, and how that contradicts with those same people making defenses for Israel Adesanya, okay? Like, we've seen Michael Bisping do this. We've seen almost every single mainstream article written about this topic do this exact thing, and I'm going to get to that. So, Israel Adesanya pleads guilty. Took place August 19th. We know that. 87 milligrams per 100 milliliters of blood. In a percentage point, that is 8.7%. So his blood was essentially 8.7% alcohol, all right? I do that because that's kind of how alcohol is measured. Everybody's familiar with that. You see the bottle, 40%. You see the can of beer, 5-6%, whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? So it's just easier to do it that way. It's also a good indicator of how intoxicated somebody is, because I know a guy once who had 40% alcohol in his blood, okay? So he's a walking bottle of vodka, right? Whereas Israel Adesanya is more in line with like malt liquor. He's a walking bottle of Old English at this point, which you need to drink a lot of and very quickly to get super intoxicated. So I don't think he was all that intoxicated. This is not an excuse or a defense of Israel Adesanya. I'm just stating the facts here, okay? If we put that into how many drinks did he have, it amounts to roughly 2 drinks over the last 2 hours, right? 2 drinks over a 2-hour course or a 2-hour period. So not all that much. When he says, I had some drinks at dinner, I'm kind of inclined to believe him, okay? Like, I just do. Because if you look at the percent of alcohol in his blood, if you look at what that amounts to in terms of drinks, it's just not that much. Now, I will say this, though, which I haven't heard a lot of people say. Alcohol affects everybody differently, okay? Clearly. I know a guy who, the second he has any alcohol touch his lips, it's like he gets an extra chromosome from the alcohol. It's brutal. I would never let him near a vehicle ever. I also know a guy who drove me home when I was a kid one time who had drank a 2.6 of vodka, and I think he might have actually driven better, okay, because I've driven with him sober, and then I drove with him then, and I was a child. This isn't like I made a fucking conscious decision. I was just like, yeah, I need to ride home. It is what it is, dude. I lived, okay, thankfully. But it just affects people differently. And also, you don't need to be like wobbling, stumbling all over the place, blackout drunk, for alcohol to have an effect on your driving. It affects your decision making. It affects your reaction time. Think about it, dude. If you're at a party and you first get there and you're clear as day, sober as can be, you see a chick and you're like, nuh-uh, no way, dude. She's 40 pounds heavy. She's, you know what I mean, maybe a little bit of a mustache, things like that. You get a few India, suddenly she looks a little bit better. Do you know what I mean? So if you take that scenario and apply that to, you're in a vehicle, the light's yellow, but you think you can make it. Do you know what I mean? Like, your decision time, or your decision making, your reaction time are just not what they would be. If you were sober, there's a fly near me. Hopefully he doesn't go right in front of my face, or I might lose my shit, dude. Either way, Let's move on, okay? So it affects people differently. You don't need to be blackout drunk in order for it to affect your driving, point blank, period. You could have a few drinks and still not be as good of a driver as you would be sober, okay? Just is what it is. Now, the 2 drinks over a 2-hour-long period, right? Not that much. So I do kind of believe him when he says that he just had some drinks out for dinner. What I want to talk about, though, is the excuses and the defenses that people are making on behalf of Israel Adesanya. So the people who have been making excuses for him ever since the whooping that he took from Sean Strickland. By the way, dude, I've never seen a fan base so happy to find out that their favorite fighter committed a crime, because they're now able to use it to validate their excuses that they have been making ever since UFC 293. We did learn during UFC 293's fight week that they will essentially defend him no matter what he does. It's kind of disgusting, honestly, but they will use it to validate that excuse. See, we told you. He wasn't taking him seriously. He looked off. He didn't look himself. He didn't look top-notch. He didn't look like Israel Adesanya. Okay, dude. And then they'll say, well, you know, it's not like he was wasted driving. He had like a couple of drinks at dinner. His alcohol level was only this much. If he was in America, he would be at the legal limit. Or just above it, pardon me. Let's be accurate, okay? You cannot do both. I can almost kind of maybe understand how an Israel Adesanya fan could do one or the other. Both of them, you can't. And if you just think about it for a second, you realize that they are complete contradictions of one another, okay? Because you're saying that he was essentially not taking Sean Strickland seriously because he's out partying, and this is why he looked like shit in the cage, because he's been out drinking and driving and doing all this crazy shit, right? But then you also try to defend him by saying, well, he only had a couple of drinks at dinner. Which one is it, dude? And let's be real, it was the 2 drinks at dinner if we look at the percentage of alcohol that was in his blood. And I don't know, man. I've never heard of a fucking hangover. I haven't drank in 8 years, but I haven't heard of a hangover lasting 3 fucking weeks, dude, okay? You think those couple of glasses of wine he had at dinner affected him in the cage against Sean Strickland? Get fucked, okay? That is not him not taking him seriously. I would imagine Israel Adesanya, at least once throughout all of his fight camps, has gone out somewhere for dinner and had a couple of drinks. This is probably just something that he does. This isn't like, I don't think Sean Strickland's a threat, so I'm going to go get wasted and get behind the wheel. He had a couple drinks at dinner. You can't validate the excuse and make the defense at the same time. They're complete contradictions, okay? So figure it the fuck out. Use your fucking brain. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about, and this excuse is driving me up the wall. We've heard Michael Bisping do it. We've heard almost everybody that's covered this fucking topic. I just said fucking, dude. Every article written about Israel Adesanya has used this excuse, and they don't present it as an excuse, but they give it for context, for comparative purposes, okay? They say, oh, well, the legal limit in New Zealand is 5%, right? 50 milligrams per 100 liters. And then they say, but if he was in America, the legal limit's 80, so he actually might have even been okay. Do you know what I mean? If he got a nice cop, if he was nice to the cop, maybe they would have let him go home. Guess what, dude? Guess what? He wasn't in America. That's completely fucking irrelevant. It doesn't matter. I don't know why everybody's saying it. He was in New Zealand. He lives in New Zealand. He's lived in New Zealand for a very long time. He continues to live there by choice. He knows the laws, okay? He's not fucking confusing them with the laws in Vegas, with the laws that, like, he doesn't live in the States. Why are we invoking the United States laws when we're talking about a guy in New Zealand? That makes no sense to me. And it's literally an attempt to downplay what he did by saying, well, look, if he was in America, if 15 minutes went by, he wouldn't even be illegal to drive. It's literally what they're saying. And I want to put this into perspective. Imagine, okay, just imagine this, because we would not accept this excuse for almost any other crime ever. Imagine if some fucking creep said, well, you know, in Thailand, the age of consent is like fucking 12 or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? We would not accept that shit for anything. I don't accept it here. It's a horrible behavior, dude. Like, people die all the fucking time, dude. My buddy argued with him for God knows how long. Couldn't get the keys away from him. Everybody's trying to fucking get him not to leave. He gets in his big lifted Dodge. It's raining outside. Couple blocks from my fucking childhood home. He takes a left-hand turn way too aggressively, skids out, rolls literally to my childhood home street. Down the fucking road, down the main road, multiple blocks, died almost. It was fucking horrible, dude. This shit happens all the time. And that was lucky. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to say I'm happy that my friend died, but what I'm happy about is that he didn't kill anybody else. Because that's what could have happened. And that's what happens all the time. And I get that he wasn't blackout drunk, but again, dude, you don't need to be for it to affect your driving. You just don't. So, just don't do it, man. Don't do it, okay? It's not, you don't want to play with the legal limit. Again, we wouldn't accept that excuse with anything. If somebody were to invoke Thailand's age of consent laws, we would want that guy in the ground. So, I'm not understanding these excuses. I'm not understanding people trying to validate the excuses and the defenses of him. All of it, dude. It's just, he had a couple of drinks at dinner and he was irresponsible because he's a spoiled fucking brat. And he thinks, well, I'll just make it home. They're not going to pull me over. I'm in a McLaren. Get an Uber, dude. Get a taxi. Like, go fuck yourself. It's insane to me, man. The excuses and the defenses that I'm hearing is what's really bothering me. Michael Bisping, that he said everybody's done it. Oh, I'm sure everybody here's done it. No, dude. No, we haven't. You know what I mean? I think I already said this. I haven't drank in 8 years, but I drank before that, and I had my driver's license before that, and I never did it. Because I watched people die. Do you know what I mean? It's not a funny thing. It's not like, he didn't steal a chocolate bar, dude. It could have ended much fucking worse. You think you're fine, but you're not. That happens all the time with a lot of substances, not just alcohol, but you know what I mean, man. So, sum it up, dude. I'm inclined to believe that he did have a couple of drinks at dinner, which means you can't use this to validate the excuse that he looked like shit 3 weeks fucking later, you muppets, okay? And he's an irresponsible prick. There's no defense for it. I don't give a fuck what the laws in the United States are when he was in New Zealand. If he was in Canada, or more specifically my province, he would have got $1,000 fine. Do you know what I mean? I don't care, because he's not here. You're not, that's not how it works. Either way, dude, hopefully I haven't rambled a whole too much. that made no sense. Either way, dude, I'm exhausted, okay? Like and subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate it. I'll see you at the next video. Bye-bye.